Yeah, it takes a minute, but it's actually recording right now. So welcome everybody to Universal Pure Light and Love Ministries.
Yes.
And welcome Chicky Hot from NAPPN.net, the website that has tons of good psychic and paranormal programming. They've been doing it since 2009, and they do a great job. The one I'm really interested in is the Psychic Detectives. But anyway, Chicky, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Aaron. Thank you so very much. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be on your show. And I am in deep gratitude to the both of you for allowing me to be here today. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart, and also from the entire North American Psychic and Paranormal Networks team. So I've been, my goodness, I've been doing this a long time. I'm a master psychic. I've been practicing for the past 29 years professionally. Yeah. And we started doing the North American Psychic and Paranormal Network. It was a gift, actually. The website was a gift. And yeah, I had a girlfriend of mine, unfortunately, who was suffering from mental illness. She had depression and anxiety, a number of different things going on with her. Yeah. And I said, you know, sometimes you need a little focus to be able to help you along. So that way you're not overwhelmed by all of the emotional things that come up. So I started off NAPPN, and she was good to go for a number of months, and she got overwhelmed with it, you know, and it can happen. So we stepped back, but I kept the project running, and it's blossomed. It's blossomed into this big, beautiful thing that has helped literally thousands. And in 2011, we were approached by Aranum, the spiritual community, to be able to partner up and to be able to affiliate with them and be able to refer psychics. We started being able to do that. Actually, I should say because my partner in crime that I was working with back in 2009 had stepped to the side. So I was doing it myself. I was referring psychics, and they said, will you train the psychics? And I said, yeah, sure. I'll train the psychics. I'll test them, you know, too, and be able to mentor them, all that great stuff. So we started a wonderful relationship with them as well. And you can find me out there on Aranum even. In 2012, I started the RockPsychic show with them, and now I can be found there on RockPsychic.com.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Definitely good stuff.
Yeah, you are a master psychic. I've seen you at work, and I've seen others that work for you at work, and they do great work. I mean, they really take the time to focus. Everybody works together. It's like that unity consciousness, you know, that meeting of all these psychics together, which can be really crazy at times, but I love it. I love getting together with other sensitives. I mean, I really do. It's amazing because you can see so much more and feel so much more. You have many perspectives, and you guys do a great job. Can you tell us something about the programming on?
Wow, I just dumped my schedule off to the other side, so I got to do it by memory.
No worries. Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
All right. So we just brought the network back online. We had taken a little hiatus since, let's see, April it was, April. So we took a little bit of a hiatus, and I ended up going to change my hosting provider, for that matter. And we brought the site back while I was in some travels and kind of like on tour a little bit there. So we ended up bringing the site back just recently. For that matter, just this past week, we brought it back on Monday. So everything's fresh and new. So since Monday, let's see. Now, we started off on Monday. I took off with the very first show because I was like, I don't want to, you know, throw one of my broadcasters under the bus by giving them the first night. That's like all kinds of like, oh my God. I try to be compassionate like that. As a producer, I totally understand. Like opening night is like hot stuff. So I said, all right. So we had a very nice open night, and I ended up covering some nice psychic material and being able to learn how to be able to read for yourself. That was the first show. And we had one of the other broadcasters be kind enough to be able to YouTube that for us. So that was really
cool.
Recorded. Yeah, so I think we have some recording capability going on right now. See what happens. But anyway, so let's see. Now, Tuesdays, we brought in Trisha from Magdalena Paranormal. She's out in New Mexico, okay, your neighboring state. And they stayed out there for 2 hours. They did their show. They had some guests. They ended up interviewing other members of their team. And they always have like the most intriguing, the most incredible people. It was incredible. It was so much fun. And being able to bring that team in was always a delight. They always have the most Yeah, they do. And Trisha, I'll tell you, the lead person in the group, if you will, the team, she's just so phenomenal. She really is. I can't stop saying enough wonderful things about her. She's so supportive. She's so loving. The woman is made out of love, literally.
Awesome. And that is, I mean, really, you guys, the energy in there. I mean, really, when I go to your website, and when I was working with you, I mean, it was a very short time, but I appreciate it. I'm grateful for it. I learned a lot from you in that short time I was there. But really, the programming you have and the things you guys are doing. I mean, the psychic detectives, that is very cool. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that, or a lot about that?
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I was talking to a member of the real life superhero community, RLSH. We do play a very prominent and powerful role in that community in being able to bring a lot of the RLSH members together to be able to create like a nice internet presence and to be able to work with a lot of the super psychics, if you will. And what we will end up doing is we will work directly with the authorities on a number of different situations, one of which is the FBI. We'll get up onto the FBI list for the missing kids. And we'll go ahead, we'll bring like a whole team of psychics together. And you remember, you were there a few nights.
Yeah, I do.
Right. We go ahead, we get like, it's like think tanking, we're all up there on webcam and mic, and we're all like, okay, let's see what we get. And then a lot of people start seeing the same thing. Like, okay, we saw this kid on an airplane. We see that the kid is, under a different name or whatever it is. And then we start gathering facts. And then we start cross-referencing and picking what it is that we pick up. We start to be able to find information. We'll go out onto social media. We'll go out there onto Google, whatever it takes to be able to match facts, just the facts. And then we find that matches up. That's what goes to the FBI. That's what goes to the police. That's what goes to the detectives. And then from there, we're able to provide a lot of hardcore information to be able to bring these children back home to their natural families. Because that's the final objective. A kid can't live like that. It's not healthy for anybody, or the families for that matter. Incredible stuff.
It is amazing. That is just
Tammy is in here. I think she wanted to come on. She was excited to
this is one of her
see you. She's a host as well on our show.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also a psychic, super psychic, I would say. And a lot of this, I mean, I must say that the way watching you guys work together as that think tank and that, community, that consciousness, I was kind of going through that a lot at the same time, but you actually in a way kind of activated or inspired me to take it deeper. So I've been on a pretty long journey psychically for the last 6 months.
Nice.
And part of it is because of you. So I'm very grateful. I just wanted to extend my gratitude to you.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad that I could inspire you.
I'd like to bring Tams in. I think she wanted to ask some questions. I can feel her giddiness right now.
Yes, she's very excited.
Her name is Tammy Wenstrom. She's a
Spirit Intuitive Tammy.
Yes. So, and then if we could take some, if you want to talk about, continue to talk about like the other programming, what other shows that you're doing on the site?
Yeah, of course. Sure. Let's see. So we talked about the Monday show, which is me. We might be replacing that with an astrologer. We'll see what's going to end up happening. They're, thinking it out as to whether or not they want to do it, what night they want to do it, and how they can balance the work-life thing,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the Mondays. And then on Tuesdays, like I mentioned, we've got the New Mexico Paranormal team, Magdalena Paranormal. Wednesdays, now we have David Ray, who's doing the Fearsome Show. He is a ghost hunter as well as also a card reader. He's an aspiring psychic. He's in training. He's definitely working on his own capabilities. He's going to be doing some on-site ghost hunts and being able to work with some other local members, be able to do some traveling all throughout the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So that's going to be kind of fascinating and fun to be able to do. Just being able to get out there with the cell phone and go mobile, from our site. We got incredible mobile capability. And be like, this is where we are, exactly as they're walking through the creepy, decrepit hallway of wherever it is they're going to be.
Right.
It's amazing, right? It's amazing.
It is. The technology totally rocks. So, let's see. What else do we got? We've also got on Thursdays, we've got Nicole Gaspard. She is a very powerful and remarkable medium. And she's also a psychic as well. And she's got her Psychic Paranormal show, and she's working with Spirit Chasers California, and that's her team. She does a lot of really good work, and she works very hard to be able to deliver all types of content. Literally, man, she's on demand right there. It's just like, she'll be doing something, be like, hey, can I have a reading? She'll be like, yeah, I'll multitask.
I notice as we in the time we're in, my abilities are just, I mean, I'm sure yours are just off the charts. I mean, really, the energy lately has been very momentous for everybody, if you want to take it that way, right?
Yeah, no doubt. It's coming from stress.
Yeah, this is our sister Tammy here, soul sister Tam. She's a host as well. Did you have any questions, Tammy?
We ain't got no sound.
Tammy, you're no sound.
Oh, she's on mute.
You're muted. You're muted. There we
Unmute?
go.
There we
Yes,
go.
there you go.
Yep.
Yes. No, I don't have any questions. I'm just taking it all in. I love anything that has to do with paranormal. I was 20 years in the church as exorcist was my side of the coin. So I was called in when there was nothing else that could be done. And I did some house cleanings too, some house clearing outs, but I am totally fascinated with the paranormal and looking at it on this side now from an audience side. I'm wondering what happens. I'm coming up with a question. Behind the scenes, after you guys go in and document paranormal activity, is there something that continues behind the scene with bringing forth healing and deliverance and setting free the spirits to go on to the light or whatever, and clearing out that energy that might be not so nice?
Well, what's very interesting is that it's very perceptive. If you walk in there with no belief systems, it's important that if you're walking into a situation and you're open-minded, scientific minds, okay, are going to be just the facts, baby, just the facts, okay? And anybody I've ever personally worked with is all about the facts and the science. I've worked for MIT, I've worked for Boston University, I've gone ahead and I've worked with, startups and all kinds of scientific agencies, even Department of Defense for that matter. So the thing is here is that when you're going ahead and you're working with some of the world's top scientists, okay, and I'm not saying I did this on a paranormal level, I have a whole other life that I live, okay, and that I experience on. However, I want you to be able to understand that when you're dealing with science, science has to be replicated. You need to be able to have just the facts there and to be able to walk in there with no preconceived notion that it's going to work, it's not going to work, it's real, it's not real. But if you walk in there without belief systems, nothing can attach to you. Let me give you a demonstration of that, okay? There's a wonderful inspirational author. Her name is Anita Manjuri. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing her last name incorrectly.
Yes.
However, she is from Hay House, and she beat cancer. She was on her deathbed, for Christ's sake.
Yes.
Right. And the way she went ahead and let go of this entire cancer, and they say the cancers that plague us, right? Anything can attach to you, anything, okay? But if you walk into a situation and you don't have belief systems, nothing can attach to you. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing can. So I think that a lot of times when you're working with these different teams, they're like, oh, I say a prayer. You're holding on to a belief system. I feel that that's flawed, in my humble opinion. I have a very different view on things. So I think that if you walk in with any kind of spiritual belief, anything, whether it's religious, spiritual, anything, you're opening yourself up. Because something that may be contradictory to your spiritual belief can be able to rub you the wrong way, and then you have attachment. Right. Yep. You don't set yourself up to fail. But
exactly.
That's my view. That's my view. And I've won by that one.
That is beautiful. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because I've come out of the religious system, and I see how when you believe in a negative entity and you are fearful of that negative entity, it's going to manifest.
Yep.
I completely agree with you.
And also, to add to it, really being open to things, belief systems can stop you from seeing other things that are right there, but you're not able to see them. I think it's I think it's beautiful.
I
Man. It's true. It's true. You got the number one thing that you need to believe in yourself. If you're going to be successful in business, or you're going to be successful as a ghost hunter, or you're going to be successful in anything that you do, believe in yourself. Number one.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Amen.
it. And the minute you give away your truth, that's it.
Yep.
Game over.
Yep.
That's it. Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
really, your truths are very piercing right now and refreshing.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
So, do you have any questions? Does the audience have
I'm
any
just
questions?
getting to the audience, so just barely getting here, guys. Sorry. I finally got blocked from sharing, so I'm now in here and I'm looking at comments. So please share, everybody.
Yes,
this is an
please.
amazing and beautiful conversation and experience, and we're learning a lot. And yes, so please share. So let's see. We got
Did I get blocked from sharing?
spirit in house and yard, similar to law of attraction. So I think we have mostly people kind of agreeing and putting in,
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
For Tricky?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to questions. If you've got it's part of my work motto. If you got questions, I got answers.
So you're holding auditions right now for new hosts, right?
Yeah, exactly. People can be able to visit the North American Psychic and Paranormal Network and be able to visit our NAPPN broadcasters link and be able to audition. Every night we have an open mic from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And anybody can be able to show up, and we can do auditions then, or you could just talk about the work that you do, or you can just be able to network and have a nice time. But that's the time to be able to do it, between 8 and 9 o'clock before our show start. And that's when you can actually get my attention.
Nice.
And you can actually use your phone to do it.
Yep.
You can go in there and you can use your phone. And I love the little tiny chats. They're awesome.
They are.
They've worked through some bugs, but that looks like things are working pretty sweetly now.
Yeah, definitely. Tiny chat, and our chat room happens to be NAPPN, NAPPN. It's that simple. Either that or come in through our website. Either way.
.net, right?
Yeah.
You have a website as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, got the volume here. Do we have any questions?
Not yet, but I think we have a bit of a lag. So it's...
Tammy, do you have a question?
I'm wondering, I don't know how to put it. When you find that there's paranormal activity in a certain space, you just document it scientifically. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the most part, that's what I would say. And what you do is you try to be able to find scientific explanations for it. And I'll be honest with you, I have never, ever, ever in my entire life and in my career, ever been able to witness or experience any form of paranormal activity that I couldn't explain. So I'm more of a skeptic.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's okay, though. That's okay. That's what we need, that, because we do need to see the science of it. I mean, we really do need to see the science. That's the backing. That's what that's what shows people this is real.
Yeah, and that's very interesting to me. I'm not a scientific person. I'm not a techie person. So when I come up against the science of the paranormal, it has to coalesce. It has to come together and make sense, because that gives me rational explanations of what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing when I go through something. So I'm able to put more trust in it and not just go by my intuition. I have something else to back it up by.
Right.
So
Research,
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like how science is coming into the picture to prove more of what we're experiencing and seeing. And I love that book that you talked about earlier, Annette. I forgot her last name, but I read that book. Yes. It was amazing story of how she overcame the cancer and was healed. And I believe that we're at that point in this space and time where we are right now, that people are seeing more than ever before. They're experiencing more than ever before. And science is now coming together, especially in the quantum physics field, to document and express and put fidelity to what we're seeing. You know, they're able to verify what we're seeing and experiencing. What the psychic has always known is now being proven. Yeah. And that gives me a lot of hope, a lot of excitement, and rears me up to go to the next star, go to the next level, whatever is out there, because it is being proven.
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed, I do agree with you. And I think that a lot of what you're witnessing, now there's an incredible movie out there. It's very entertaining. It's called What the Bleep Do We Know? And I know a lot of people have watched that movie. And as sad as this seems, okay, it's such a dumbed down version of quantum physics. I don't even want to call it quantum physics. It isn't until you work with one of the world's top quantum physicists, okay, which I did, that you can be able to come to appreciate what is true quantum physics. And quantum physics goes into the absolute science of the smallest detail, or the smallest existing molecule, and how it reacts, if you will, when it interacts with other molecules that maybe even sharing the same space. You know, I've worked with all kinds of crazy technology, you know, and I can't begin to be able to mention all of it on the air, of course. But the thing is that a lot of it that we're witnessing is within the eye of the beholder, perception. Yes. That's a huge factor, okay? And when people are under stress, or an object is under stress, it's going to react. Yep. And it's going to also have like a perception of the witness, if you will. And like, it goes back to the old joke, you know, if a tree falls in the woods, but there's no one here there to be able to hear it fall, you know, does it really make a sound? Right. But the sound has to occur by reacting against something else. This is science, right?
The observer, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So I bang on my desk, right? And you're hearing that in my microphone. That sound is reverberating off of my eardrums. It's reverberating off my microphone. You're hearing it and you're receiving it, but it has to bounce off of something.
Right.
Yeah. That's what. And that's how reaction works as well. But if
yes,
blowing my mind, girl.
It is what awesome. It is. It's simple. It's simple. All right.
It is simple.
Enough on the hardcore science, right? Unless
I like it, because I feel like in the spiritual community that I'm in, that we're all in, I feel like people do need to look at more of the science to it. Yeah. You know, it do need to come from more, you know, keep it a balance. I mean, I feel like the spirituality part of it is kind of going out ahead, right? It's going out ahead. It's that sci-fi. But sci-fi is just a precursor to science usually. Right. So, but you have to find that hard science to back it up. And I believe we are. There are a lot of new discoveries, especially in the quantum physics world, that are very, very enlightening to me, and very a lot of validation or confirmation.
Right.
Yeah, that's how a lot of the supercomputers are being formulated now too. You know, we've got these things, these microchips that are so fast. Okay, the molecules are moving so quickly. Somebody once upon a time could have been like, wow, that's paranormal. You know, this molecule is sharing the same space as this other molecule at the same exact time, but it's moving so fast. It looks like it's two molecules. No, is it really, or is it just two? You know, or is it just one? We don't know, right? Until we actually can be able to scientifically analyze it. And I think that a lot of times we lose grip in the scientific community of possibilities of perception. And they rule that out. They do a lot of times. And they say, all right, well, it has to be. That's what I tell you. You have to prove it twice. You always have to reproduce it at least twice. And then you say, do it a third time. And then you do it a fourth time.
I always notice if I see something strange, and trust me, I've seen plenty of things, strange things, I'm sure you have, or anomalies, right? I always try to question it. Okay, that had to be something, you know, something not out of the ordinary.
What's around here and what's
and that actually, by doing that, you're amazed by some of the anomalies that you can't prove. Yes. Yeah. And that's the beauty in it, you know, because you always know there's always a deeper truth. There's always more science to back it up, you know.
Oh, of course.
Spirituality. they're hand in hand. They really are. You know, if you look at it, it really science is really backing up a lot of spirituality right now, and the things within the spiritual community, and it's beautiful to watch.
It is. It's phenomenal. Actually, the latest thing, okay, you know, I work on the Rock Psychic show, and a lot of times people come to me as a psychic to be able to do dream analysis. And I am a subconscious mind specialist, okay? So the thing is that the whole idea of understanding the dream modes, if you will, and being able to understand those dream symbols and what all these things mean actually goes into psychology, but yet they're bringing it to psychics. So we need to know some psychology. Some people are sitting there, they're just guessing at it. You know, they're like, oh, I sense it's this, you know, but in reality, psychology says it's something different. I like to be able to rely on a good old reliable app I have on my phone and my computer. I love this website. I swear by it. I think they're one of the most incredible websites. It's dreammoods.com.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I love Dream Moods. Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the best. So I noticed something, right? So I was listening to a speaker, another Hay House. I go to Hay House conferences. I used to go to the I Can Do It as frequently as I could, right? So anyway, I go ahead and I see this one speaker named Bruce Lipton. And he's talking about, you know, subconscious mind and how we create our reality and all that. And it got me thinking. I'm like, wait a minute here, right? So what happens if our subconscious mind is what powers our reality and everything that we perceive within our consciousness, right? So I says, all right. So I say, if it happens more than once, it's a pattern, but it's worth being able to acknowledge, right? But that's just me, you know, because I'm a spiritual person. Yeah, science will say, no, it's not a pattern. But in my spirituality and my religion, you know, anything goes, you know. You know. So anyway, I go and I let like a perfect example, right? I went out and I was driving on the road the other day and I see a ball in the road. Okay. So I see this ball in the road and I'm like, okay, all right, a ball in the road. So then what do I end up doing? I end up driving down to the post office and I see a ball in the parking lot. That's nice. So I go ahead and I look up ball in dream moods, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, you need to be able to have more fun in your life. I'm like, yeah, I've been working too hard. That's true.
Yeah.
It's my subconscious mind bleeding through to me every single time when I'm in my meditation. I meditate for up to 4 hours a day at sometimes. And I'm sitting there and I get images in my mind and I'm looking them up because where else is that information coming from? And
That's right.
Up and I said, what does it mean? I go, okay, let me go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole here. You know, what do we got? I find that the subconscious mind and the psychology there, it's all there, but it's just remarkable what's happening with psychics and how they're being demanded. There's a lot of psychology that goes into psychic readings too, you know. There is science.
And vice versa. And I think that's why it's important, you know, it's why more people are respected of psychics that have been doing it for 20 or 30 years, because they have learned through trial and error with their visions, but also just talking to people and dealing with other people and their, you know, because that's what we're doing. We're healing mental ailments, right? And emotional ailments. And that is psychology, you know? And that's, yes, you do need to learn how to deal with people. I mean, you do need to learn, there's a certain way you need to learn to deal with suicidal people. And a lot of people get freaked out and just kind of say the same old thing to that person. And that's exactly the opposite of what in my experience, of what somebody suicidal wants to hear. Right. You know, the same old cliche BS, you know, really connecting with somebody and listening to them, you know, and learning from them. And I think psychology, there's another balance there, that psychology and that spirituality, that science to back up the spirituality and vice versa. I think it's important to have that balance.
Agreed, very much so. And I myself, as a practitioner, and also being in the role that I am, I have to constantly update my education. So I'm on Coursera, I'm on, you know, the MIT website, and I'm taking courses even on Udemy, you know, whatever I can be able to find from actually trained people, you know, who are preparing courses in psychology or life coaching, well-being. I'm also a reverend, so I had to be able to take some ministry classes. You know, there's a lot of things, even from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I went for months for training with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I got a lot of training behind me. And people wonder, they're like, oh, you're really good. And I'm like, yeah, well, I paid for that.
I learned. I took the time to learn.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, do we have any other?
Chicky, I'm wondering can you tell us how you got started with all this? where did it first begin with you?
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, this is an interesting story. I was very young. I have to say I was about 7 years old. I was living in Forest Hills, Queens, New York. And I was living with my parents, quite obviously, in a beautiful apartment. And, you know, if anybody knows about Forest Hills, Queens, it's beautiful. It's back then. And, you know, I'm dating myself here. And I'll tell you, it was in the 70s. So I'll tell you, I'm going to date myself. But anyway, so my parents back then, rules and laws were very different about leaving children home alone back then as they are nowadays. There was a lot of free range parenting happening back then. So I was about 7 years old. My parents decided to be able to go out to eat and they wanted to leave me home alone. And I said, all right, whatever, you know. So I put on Z100, you know, it's a New York City radio station. It's very well known. So I put that on the stereo and I hang out, right? And I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was playing. I think I was like pouring sugar on the floor and building little sandcastles out of sugar because my mom used to stockpile sugar. I don't know. But I was playing with sugar on the floor and building things or whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm by myself and I have my cat next to me. And I want you to understand that I had this gigantic living room and I had those big fancy drapes that they had back in the 60s and 70s. Okay. And they hung on the flat wall. Then you had the window showcased in the middle. Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the radio and my cat perks up and my cat's staring at the curtains. I'm like, okay, kitty. So I'm following the eyes of the cat and I see the curtains moving. It's not even a curtain. It's a drape. It's a heavy upholstered drape.
Yeah, now, I remember those.
Yeah, exactly. So the window wasn't even open. The drape was up against a flat wall because the drapes were drawn. Okay. And I'm like, you know, I'm not thinking WTF when I'm a kid, but I'm like, and every single hair on my body stood up. Every single little hair on my body stood up. I'm like, ooh, what am I feeling? What is that? So then that's when it all really started. That's when, you know, I mean, I could go even further back. Okay. That was the first time I've encountered spirit, but I remember being in the crib. Okay. And my mom was a real jokester. She really was. God bless her and rest her soul. Right. But the thing is that I was in the crib and my mother had a 7-inch TV sitting about 15 feet away from my crib. I was an infant, you know, I don't know if you guys remember. I know I remember. My vision was crap when I was a kid. Yeah. I couldn't see anything when I was an infant. I couldn't. Yeah. I had to have been only maybe 2, 3, 4 months old or something like that. I can't see the TV. So what I had to do to be able to enjoy the TV was astral out of my body and get up this close to the screen to be able to see it. And I was sitting there watching Sesame Street and Electric Company, you know. So the thing is that was some of my earliest experiences. And I remember when I was 7 years old, I thought back. I was like, well, what is all of this? What is this? And then I always remembered how I'd astral out of my body. And then I was like, you know, somehow when I started going to school and getting more distracted and not being in touch with myself, I had to develop something to get myself back to those abilities. So I had to start being able to separate the external world from the internal world that exists up here so I could focus because I lost my focus. So I started meditating around 7 years old. I would sit in my bedroom and just stare at the blank white wall. I was sitting there. Back then, I didn't know, you know, I'm sitting there, hands in my lap, you know, whatever. I'm sitting there like this or whatever it was that I was doing, sitting on the edge of my bed with my legs crossed and just focusing. And that was it, just focus. And then what I would do is I would slide backwards in time and go back to when I was an infant and be able to say, what was the technique that I was using? What was I doing? Yeah. What would that feel like? How was I doing it? I was going through the who, what, where, when, how, and why. And then I'd go back. I remember this very clearly. When I went and I reflected back to that experience with the drape moving and being freaked out. I mean, granted, I did run out of the apartment and lock myself out. Yeah, don't get a kid started, especially a little girl. So the thing, you know, that I many days after that, I kept on reflecting back and going back in time to be able to re-engage that minute until I had the courage to be able to, and I didn't even realize what I was doing, to be able to go back in time and encounter that spirit and communicate with it. And I actually went back in time and I walked up to the curtain and I moved the curtain, and I was in an astral form in time. So that's how I became a time shifter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And what it is.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I did it on accident. It's just as you astral travel. Yeah, you're on different timelines, different realms, different dimensions, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're more aware of that, you can focus more, and you can go where you want to. But a lot of the times, your subconscious is doing it all the time, and if you're not paying attention to it, that's how I feel. My view. So the more conscious you are of your subconscious, I think the better.
Yeah. There is bridging that together is a very delicate process too, because if you've got a very troubled life, and this is one of the things that I teach in some of the higher spiritual teachings, some of my clients, and if they've got a really troubled life and they got a lot of problems, I will tell them, you need to work through your stuff first. You need to be able to master controlling yourself first.
Yeah.
If you can't control yourself, you can't control your reality. Don't even try it. You will create havoc. And it's funny. I went ahead and I tried to be able to teach this to a number of individuals. And what's funny is that they said, no, please teach me anyway. Please teach me anyway. I says, oh boy, here we go. I taught them how to go down into their subconscious mind. They ended up having psych breaks. No word of lie. They had psych breaks and they ended up in the mental hospital. So the thing is that, and of course I would never teach this to a child. That would be all kinds of mayhem.
Right.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But but the thing is that when you go ahead and you teach an adult on that level and they start going in and reality tampering with their past or anything like that, sometimes you just can't do it. You just can't. It's impossible, because if you don't have the psychological capacity to be able to manage what's happening in the now, how are you going to do it in the past?
Lose your mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You get lost in the abyss. Yep.
Exactly. That same thing happened when we first started talking about all this out on NAPPN. And we were comparing it to the Matrix. You're going down the rabbit hole, and what is reality? And there were people that were like, oh, I got a headache still.
We have some questions, or a question for you.
Yay.
You want to read the question? Go ahead.
Okay, it's Kim Reinhart. Hi, everyone of you. I have a question. 2 nights ago, I continue having the same dream with my mom who passed. As I kept getting very sick in the dream, she kept comforting me before I got to bed. This continued 3 times. Every time I'd go back to sleep, I had the dream repeated. I just found out that I'm sick, but is she trying to tell me I'm going to be okay?
Well, what the dream sounds like to me is that being sick. Now, I don't know. Is she still present in the chat room? Is this an interactive thing, or did it get emailed?
It should be. Hopefully,
yeah,
she should.
She's present.
There is a bit of a lag, but
okay, got it.
Go ahead and ask her.
When somebody says they got sick, I'm wondering, if we're talking about a cold, how do you mean by sick? Because a lot of times when we become sick, we are at, like dis-ease, okay? Not at ease with a situation, okay? And a lot of times when we're having dreams, okay, it's always a mirror reflection of ourselves. So when you go ahead and you talk about your mother and she's comforting you, I feel as though, to be honest, that the situation is that she's coming to terms with something that she's learning about herself. And she's trying to be able to accept it, because mom's unconditional love will always be there. And mom will always be there to comfort you and be like, oh, don't beat yourself up, sweetheart. I love you, blah, 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 right? But the whole thing that goes along with all of that is when you get sick, you have something that's troubling you.
Cancer.
And I think it's what's that?
Cancer.
It's cancer. So let's go back. Let's go back to the whole concept of the cancers that plague us, right? The cancers that plague, the things that stick to us, okay? When I read chakras, okay? So when somebody comes to me and says to me, I got breast cancer, of course, I'm going to say that's very unfortunate. But then we start talking and we find out that they have an attachment to a situation of a matter of the heart that has never gone and, leveled itself out. You haven't come to terms with it. You haven't come full circle with all of it. You're still grieving. You're still mourning it. You're holding on to it. And these are the kinds of things that, you can beat yourself up on, but it creates a conflict within yourself. And that's very unfortunate that she's sick. It really is very unfortunate. My deepest, condolences, for all the trouble that you're going through. However, you have to be able to regain your truth. And, as of lately in my meditations, I keep coming back to trust your truth.
Yeah.
Trust your truth, because anything that anybody has ever said or done to you, that's their truth.
Right.
There's a lot to that. And I think that each and every single one of us has to fully come to terms to accept our own truth before we can be able to start being able to look at what it is, okay, that affects us from our environment, including even cancer. Because the rabbit hole always goes deeper, okay? So, you know, and be careful, because sometimes, remember, thoughts are things. You can manifest things, whatever you believe. If you believe it strongly enough and you're worried about this horrible nightmare that you've had, you can manifest that.
Right.
Yeah.
You definitely can. I'm going to share something with you, okay? About a year and a half ago, I had a horrible doctor, okay, say to me, oh, you better go for your mammogram. You better go for your regular mammogram. She says, you're going to have cancer. You're going to have cancer. She said that to me. I wanted to give her a kick in the you-know-whatsy, but I'm too much of a...
I quit projecting that on me.
Right.
No,
Right.
So sure enough, I went in, I had the mammogram, right? And they said, there's something in there. There's something in there. They had me all like, well, yeah. So I sat in meditation, right? Sometimes up to 6 hours a day back then. Okay. And I would sit there and I'd be like, what have I not worked through? Right. And I went into every single cell. When I get into my meditation, I go into every single cell and I ask those cells, what is it that you're holding on to? What do you got? And you know what? I went back 2 months later for the follow-up mammogram because they wanted to do the mammogram at least 3 times. Okay. Yeah. By the 3rd mammogram, whatever it was that they saw was gone.
That happened to her mother did the same thing, and she was all worried about it. They're telling me that I have to get checked for cancer and all this other stuff and thyroids. I'm like, quit letting all that crap attach to you, because you are going to create it within. And guess what? She's missed 2 doctor's appointments. She's not worried and she's not having issues.
Yep.
You know, like, that's the thing. It really, we create, I mean, that's on a quantum physics level. We create our own problems. We create our own sickness a lot of the time. And we don't even realize we're doing it a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's very unfortunate. You know, at the end of the day, I'm thinking to myself, this woman was defining to me, this doctor was defining to me her reality.
Yeah.
So God bless her. I pray that nothing could ever bad happen to this person, but she's doing it to herself.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's so unfortunate. It breaks my heart to be able to hear things like that, but to be able to process it and go, that's her truth. She was telling me her story.
Yeah.
Good God.
Well, and I think a lot of them, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say a lot of them are so systematic and used to that system in that medical profession that they are used to just projecting these things on patients.
Yeah, she's a young girl. She was a very young girl, though. That was the scary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like, you sure you graduated from college already?
But that's where you learn those systems, is in that college, and how to kind of, you start to ignore certain things because you're
there's a programming, and that's why it's important, you know. Let's go back to your network and to your
inner universe and figure out what it means.
I mean, you guys have been listening. She's a genius, right? She really is. I mean, at genius level for sure. This is the programming she puts out. I mean, it's real, you know, no phoniness to it. It's there's science to back it up, but there's that spirituality. You know, it's a good mix. So why don't you let everybody know where? Do we have any more questions?
Let's see here.
Not right now, but go ahead and let everybody know what's going on tonight. Are you doing? You're doing some programming tonight, right?
Yeah, we are. Starting at 8:00. We got open mic, and we're going to be doing that for an hour and doing some auditions. And everybody's going to be coming up on camera and microphone and hanging out and just having a good old time. You know, anything psychic, paranormal, metaphysical, healing, you name it, right? Yeah, whatever. Right. Last night we were talking about tech. Yeah, whatever comes up, right? So anyway, and then at 9:00, I'm going to be interviewing David Ray, who's a ghost hunter, as well as also a card reader and an aspiring psychic. He's in training, doing psychic development. And he's going to be talking about some of his experiences as a child and as a young adult and things that he's experienced and how he kind of differentiates between what is real versus what is fantasy, or what is the difference, you know. And it's fun to be able to, you know, make it all dramatic, you know, because sometimes you do want to do that. You want to do a little bit of fun. You can.
Right.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
It
Why
gets
not?
you in the mood. It opens up a mental portal.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. And of course, being able to engage that until about maybe 10 o'clock tonight. And then we'll open the floor back up again to some open mic and having some fun times.
Awesome.
Very cool.
It is so cool.
Well, I had so much fun having you on, and I want to have you back as soon as possible.
Yes.
Some other from your network, and I'd love to have them on as well.
Yes. Yep.
I'd love for people to see the psychic detectives in action.
Right. Yeah.
That's very cool. It's a very cool moment to watch them tracking down, missing children because they're missing. I mean, we need that. There's a lot of people missing right now.
Yeah.
A lot of children especially, and you guys do a great job. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Yes. Everybody check her out. Chicky Hot, right? Is that how you pronounce your last? Yes.
Yes, you got it.
Super psychic and genius here. Check her out.
Thank you so very much. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you all.